You are looking at the face of somebody who had no clue just how hard this challenge was going to be. She thought this would be easy, that this build would take a couple of weeks. That was past me, and that was 8 months ago, and present me has only just finished this build now. So how about I explain what's going on? I miss her, and I decided that I wanted to set myself a survival island challenge. I wanted to completely transform an island in the middle of nowhere so that it was pretty and safe and would also work as a base. This is that island, but there was a catch. I was not allowed to leave the island, I couldn't go to the nether, I couldn't visit other biomes, and I couldn't travel to get resources. I had to find everything I needed right here. I could go caving and mining, and I did allow myself to swim about a little, but I couldn't step foot on land anywhere else. That meant no using the nether to travel to other parts of the world, no digging tunnels to other islands or mainlands, no going to the end, just using what I could gather from this island. So let's rewind time a little and join past me on her adventures back when life was simple and this project seemed like a great idea. I started how all the best Minecraft worlds start, by punching a tree. I guess that's how all Minecraft worlds start, but you know what I mean. So I explored and gathered what resources I could, before inevitably hiding in a hole overnight, because nighttime is scary and I'd not found sheep so I couldn't make a bed. But I knew two things that all Minecrafters learn very, very quickly. One was I was not going to survive for very long without food, and two, without a bed, I needed shelter. So, while I hid the night away, I placed down my crafting bench and a chest and got to work making myself a little cave to call home, at least for now. So that was shelter dealt with. finally came, I decided to head down the cliff to make some food. I had seeds and I knew I could make food, eventually, so all I wanted to do was spend a little bit of time farming and growing crops. The sea, however, had other ideas, and I experienced how cruel the ocean can be. Well, how cruel the drowned can be anyway, and I died again and again and again. But I did eventually manage to get out of that death loop and set up my wheat farm, and food was sorted. Then I realised that I needed something else that was vital to my survival. Ladders. I needed a lot of ladders, because my little cave was fine, but I needed resources to make it pretty, and those resources can only be found deep underground. Oh, and I guess I also needed iron and coal and stuff like that, because tools are a little bit important too. But with my ladders crafted, I headed underground and I dug until I found what I needed, a lush cave. This was a great find so early because although I did want my starter cave to look nice, moss, vines and glowberries were also going to be a really important part of my transformation of this island. So I gathered all of the things that I could ever want, and then I also grabbed some iron while I was there, which I smelted right away so I could upgrade my tools and be a more efficient miner and find me some diamonds. I used my diamonds to make a shiny new pickaxe so that I could be an even more efficient miner and keep mining, so I did. Until I found an abandoned minecraft, another fantastic find because I could strip it of all of its resources. set up with what I needed, I decided it was time to work on stage 1 of the island transformation, removing all signs of life from it by cutting down every single tree on the island so that I could get a good look at what I was working with. Luckily, dark oak is one of my favourite wood types to build with, so I could use all of the trees I'd cut down. But I was going to be limited with building materials for this base because the only tree types I found were oak and dark oak. It was about this point that I realised I needed a better source of food. Bread is fine, but we all know it's not a great food source in Minecraft, and without villagers or the nether, I'm not going to be getting golden carrots anytime soon. So I started herding animals into pits. Don't worry, they won't live this way forever. I do have plans for a much nicer home for them, but right now they live in pits in the ground. And while I'm in my farming era, I decided it was also time for a bigger and better farm for growing crops. I did have to shave a little bit off the top of the mountain to get enough dirt, but that's okay because I have big plans for this mountain anyway, and you'll see those in a little bit. And that's because I want this base to not just be a base, but I want there to be a hint of a history and a story behind it. I love it when builds have a backstory and feel like they've been there for decades or even hundreds of years. And this island has a backstory. I just haven't made it yet. Back to caving and mining because I'm doing okay, but I'm still short of resources, and also caving is kind of one of my favourite things to do in Minecraft, so I did it for fun. Caving, I came across a couple of spawners, and that's when I realised that for this island I was going to need bone meal, a lot of bone meal. So I used one of the spawners to make a bone meal farm. This spawner is really far down in the world, which meant I didn't have as much space as I'd like to drop the skeletons down, but it works, and not being able to drop them just means that they won't take so much damage, so it's only an extra couple of swipes with a sword, so it's not that much of a problem. I don't really know if the technology around spawner farms like this has changed much over the years. I've been making them for so long now, and I usually just use them as a source of XP and resources. I know you can make big fancy farms that give you XP in minutes, but I kind of like the grindy aspects of Minecraft. It's relaxing and fun. I'm also one of those weird people that likes flying around the end gathering resources from end cities. It's one of the things I'll do to relax on an established world. But that's for future videos. Right now, there is no end and there is no elytra. We are doing everything the slow way, including XP and bone meal. So let's get this farm finished. Guys, I think it's time we stopped living in a cave and got serious. And I have an idea for a really cute little cottage to live in. I don't need much, just a little storage area, a bed and a fireplace. That's enough to call a place home. So I grabbed some resources, which was basically a bunch of dark oak and oak, which I turned into slabs, trapdoors, planks and fences, and then some cobble, stone and deep slate. This is one of my go-to colour palettes for this type of cottage build, because the colours and textures work really well together, and I love that the types of stone can give a really weathered and old look, like it's been there for years. One of the tricks I've learned as a builder in Minecraft is to use the landscape and the textures of the blocks to really better build into the land it's sitting on, because that helps it feel like it really belongs to the world. I'd actually say out of all of the different stages of building, the landscaping after you build something is one of the most important steps, because that's what really elevates a build from something that's good to something that looks really good. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's actually build the cottage first. building, I also decided that my animals needed a nicer home too. So I dug out some caves into the mountain so that the animals can have a little shelter as well as access to the outside. I had managed to procure a couple of llamas from some wandering traders along the way. We won't talk about that, but they also needed a home too. And this is my little cottage. I love it and it is perfect for what I need. So let me show you around. So as you can see, I have this cute little kitchen area as soon as you walk in, which has a little bit of storage in it for things that I need down here, as well as my furnace and all of that stuff. I also have a little cute seating area and a bedroom just off to the side. And I even made a wardrobe to put my very limited armour and tools in. And upstairs, that's where the storage is, basically. I don't need huge amounts of storage, just a little bit, because this isn't a massive base. And there is only just me on the island. So up here, I've just got chests for all of the main resources and some crafting benches for all of the things that I might need to make. But right now, I also have a little bit more work to do because I need to have a bigger crop growing area. And I also need to do some fishing because I'm really struggling for tools. I've gone through so much iron and I'm running out of diamonds, so I want to try and get a mending book for at least my pickaxe. If I can get more mending books, then that's a bonus. But to go fishing, I want to make somewhere nice to fish from. And then that is what I will do until I get my mending books. Normally, I would get my mending books from villagers, but that's not an option right now. have everything I need, I am ready for a bigger build. And I love the idea I've had for this island, but first I need more resources. I'm pretty set for wood for a while, but I'm going to need lots of types of stone for this build. So I headed back into the caves for more tough, deep slate and cobble. I obviously got distracted when I found axolotls, but I'm not sure I'd trust anyone who didn't get distracted when they found axolotls in the wild. So I captured them, and then gathered the rest of the resources I needed and started building. I did have to shave off a little bit more of the top of the mountain before I could start, and then I could start placing blocks. You'll probably be able to tell what I'm building pretty quickly, but you probably won't be entirely sure why I'm building this, so let me explain. I said earlier that I wanted this island to be transformed, that it would also have a backstory that you could tell from just walking around it and looking at it, and I wanted that backstory to include a long history. And as you can tell, I'm from the UK and we have quite a lot of history. and a lot of that history is visible in the buildings. You can kind of tell how old a town or area is by the buildings you find in that area. And one thing we have a lot of is castles. You cannot go anywhere in the UK without tripping over a castle or two. Almost everywhere has either a castle or an old fort or something that dates back hundreds of years, sometimes going into the thousands of years. Some castles are small, others are huge. Most are in various states of ruin, and that's what I'm building, an old ruined castle. I want it to be obvious that this was once an amazing castle at some point in history, but that it has not been used for hundreds of years. So it's old, it's ruined, and the great thing about it is that it serves absolutely no purpose on my island other than to give it an interesting focal point and to help give it some history. Having a ruined castle instantly gives a little hint to what this island used to be, that at some point in the past this place was important. Then over the years, things happened. People left and the castle was left to degrade. The only sign of life on the island now is the little cottage, which although is still old, it's still lived in and in good condition. I just love that this hints to a story that's really long and interesting. Like, why was the Grand Castle built here? Who lived in it? Was it a trading post, someone's house, or was it somewhere important that needed defending? Let me know what you think the story of this island might be in the comments. I would love to hear it. So now we are onto the bit I mentioned earlier that was really important. The landscaping. And luckily I had planned this so it wasn't going to be too difficult. After reshaping some of the island, I just needed to make the landscape look a little bit more natural. That moss I gathered and that bone meal farm is now really handy, because this is one of the quickest and easiest methods for making an area instantly prettier. I just plop a moss block down and bone meal it. The moss block is the best block in the game because it has so many uses and it is really good for making landscaping quick and easy. If you want to light up an area, moss carpet is also really useful, and this is something I'm doing while landscaping. Just popping down a torch and covering it with a moss carpet so you can't see the torch but the area is lit up. And that's because one of my goals for this island that it's not only pretty but it's safe too. I don't really want to worry about mobs spawning anywhere, so lighting is kind of necessary. But there was still something missing. Trees. Any island like this that was mostly uninhabited would be covered in trees. And I'd already cut down every single one that I could find on the entire island, so I had to add my own. And despite having all of that wood, I did not have enough, so I spent ages farming leaves and wood so that I could cover this island with a custom forest. This is where this Minecraft video nearly failed. Another secret about me is that I hate building trees in Minecraft. It's the thing I really don't like doing because it's so fiddly and difficult. And although I had designed some, I now had 44 trees to build in survival and I was not looking forward to it. So I stopped playing. No trees got built. I didn't actually play Minecraft at all for months. I stopped recording because I didn't think this video was ever going to make it to YouTube, but I could not get this island project out of my head. It was living in my brain rent-free. I couldn't let it go, and it was on my mind all of the time. So I came back from time to time and placed blocks slowly. I still didn't think I was going to make this into a YouTube video. I was now just doing this for myself so I could let go of the project. But eventually, after more months, my trees were done, and my enthusiasm for the project came back too. So I decided to continue, and at this point my island was starting to look really good. But there was still a lot to do before I was happy with the island and could call it done. To start with, I'd collected 1, 2 or 20 axolotls along my travels, and I wanted a home for them. And there was this perfect cave in the side of a cliff that had no access to it, and it was just perfect. So I first had to create an access to it. Now, another thing about me is that secret tunnels are a thing I absolutely love, and I tend to include them in all of my Minecraft bases. I probably read too many mystery books as a kid. They were always full of secret tunnels and hidden rooms behind fireplaces, and I've never lost my enthusiasm for them. So what I'm trying to say is that I wanted to build a tunnel, so I did. And now I can access my axolotl cave, which of course I had to make pretty first, which is another little secret about me. I love living in caves in Minecraft. My starter bases are almost always caves of some kind. And I've been thinking about making a full cave base to see what that would be like, so let me know if you'd like to see that. But my axolotl cave had to be pretty and it had to be safe, so I used a lot of hidden lighting, including glow lichen, just to make sure that no mobs would spawn and ruin the peaceful cave my axolotl army lives in. But before I let my axolotls go, I had to name them. Again, I'm glad I built that skelly farm early in this adventure, because I had a lot of these guys to name, which meant I needed XP. I think this axolotl cave might be my favourite thing about the island. It has no use at all to it, but I love it. But we were still not quite done, so I got to work, because we are now on the home stretch, and I cannot wait to show you how much of a transformation I've made to this island. I first had to deal with all the rock parts of the island and the landscaping I'd missed out, so I just did a little texturing and used grey carpets to add some hidden lighting, so I didn't need to have torch spam everywhere. Then I decorated bits and pieces over the island, including the rest of the natural caves in the side of the cliffs, just so that this island looks interesting from every angle. Guys, we are done! Let's do a tour and overview of the island so you can see just how amazing it looks. I am so happy with this. It was not an easy project and it did take me a very long time, much longer than I expected, mostly because of the trees, but it was so worth it. It's not until you see the side by side before and after view that you can really see how much of a difference I've made to the island. So what do you think? Let me know, and also don't forget to tell me what you think the backstory of the island is. But before I go, shall we have a little look at what this looks like with shaders and at night? Yeah, let's do that. But thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, I would love it if you subscribed and joined me in future adventures. I'll try and not make them 8-month-long adventures in the future. I hope you have a great day. bye.